Ravings from the grave and salutations everyone, Dr. Redfield here, and I'm going to give you all the list of the top 10 zombie movies that I believe will rot your brains.
The top 10 zombie movies to rot your brains.
Let's get infected. So let's just establish this right here at the very beginning. I will only be discussing movies about the undead and the undead only. I will not be discussing movies about cannibalistic, rage-induced assholes and demonic possessions. Sorry, 28 Days Later and Evil Dead are not zombie movies. For the record, the zombie outbreak can only happen because of a couple of reasons. The government, genetic experiments, comets, ritual magic, and the lack of availability of the room left in hell. When there's no more room left in hell, the dead will walk the earth. I love zombies and most things undead from the bottom of my dark, creepy heart, but let's be honest, not every zombie movie is a winner. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's dive on in and take our first bite.
Number 10, Zombieland, 2009, directed by Ruben Fleischer.
I'm starting off the list right here because this movie gives so much to the genre. It teaches us the importance of cardio and double tapping. You had better run fast because those zombies are so gooey. This film stars those two guys from that Magic Heist movie, the girl from that Help movie, and the little Schwarzenegger's Maggie zombie girl. The finale is quite epic as well and has one of the most powerful scores. It sets the tone so well. Plus, this has one of the best movie cameo appearances in cinematic history in my opinion. So check out Zombieland if you're looking for a fun family flick with flesh eaters. You might actually learn something too. And oh, how I would love to get lit with that man and play Ghostbusters. Dun -dun 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 -dun.
Number 9, Fido, 2006, directed by Andrew Curry.
Set in the 1950s Beaver Cleaver era, this sweet wholesome movie is about a boy Timmy and his pet zombie Fido. This is in a world that uses the undead as a free source of labor, and the zombie apocalypse is just a normal part of life. Fido breaks these social traditions and becomes a family member despite the warnings from Timmy's dad. The mother is played by Trinity from The Matrix, and old Fido himself is played by the gun-wielding Irish dad from the Boondock Saints. The zombies look fantastic and they deliver on the violence and gore when it is necessary. No, Timmy is not in a well, but his pet zombie will save the day.
Number 8, Brain Dead, aka Dead Alive, 1992, directed by Peter Jackson.
Long before The Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson had his hands in this bloodbath of insanity that stars Timothy Balm and Diane Penalver. There are gross rats, bizarre zombie babies, and a finale that is so big that the only way they can deal with it is with a lawnmower. Oh, it's fucking brilliant. Plus, this is the only movie on the list that'll kick ass for the Lord. Seriously, there's a kung fu priest in this movie, and I feel like that's all I need to say. So grab some popcorn and get ready for buckets of blood in this ridiculously early 1990s gore fest. There will be body parts and pus everywhere.
Number 7, The Serpent and the Rainbow, 1988, directed by Wes Craven.
After doing Nightmare on Elm Street, Wes Craven gave us his take on zombies. His approach was to be much more realistic and deal with the Haitian zombification voodoo rituals that exist. Loosely based on true events, this movie shows you how one's mind could actually be zombified. The hero from Spaceballs delivers a terrifying performance as a pharmaceutical researcher looking for powerful anesthetic drugs, but unfortunately he gets more than what he's looking for. This movie feels real, visceral, and it might even mess with your mind just a little bit. I highly recommend it. How much voodoo can you do and still be you? 2?
Number 6, Day of the Dead, 1985, directed by George A. Romero.
As I stated earlier, this list is in no particular order, so here is the godfather of the zombies, third feature film featuring zombies, making the first appearance on this list. After the night there came the dawn, and after the dawn there came the day. This movie is darker and bleaker than his others, and definitely shows the director's feelings towards the government and absolute power. Coming out the same year as Rambo Part 2, this movie showed a less heroic side of the military and what soldiers might do when under pressure. Tom Savini, on the other hand, the godfather of gore, delivered some beautiful special effects and blood and guts for the big screens. This was when he was at the height of his creepiness, and he really let the gore shine. This film did not initially do well in the box office, but has since become an iconic cult classic in the genre. Oh, And let's not forget Bub, the first zombie with personality that I fell in love with. I salute you, Bub.
Number 5, Night of the Living Dead's 1968, directed by George A. Romero, and 1990, directed by Tom Savini.
Yes, I am combining two movies right here on the list, but I feel like they are one and the same. The Godfather of Zombies did the original, and then The Godfather Rigor was passed the torch. George Romero established pretty much all the rules in his monumental directorial breakthrough debut with Night of the Living Dead, and then years later he gave approval for Tom Savini to redo the movie, adding his take on all the special effects. These two movies are almost scene-for-scene recreations with a few exceptions. The remake has updated special effects, as I already said, and some of those zombies are just absolutely terrifying. Plus, in my opinion, this movie is far more intense and nerve-wracking than its predecessor. Both movies' Bens are strong and are heroes, but the Candyman's Ben is far more willing to smash in some skulls. The other major difference between these two movies is the female lead, Barbara. We're coming to get you, Barbara. And the original Judith O'Dea was a typical damsel in distress, and once the chaos starts, she never stops screaming and almost goes catatonic. It was good for what it was at its time, but in the remake, Savini decided to have Patricia Tallman's Barbara find the strength to survive as the movie goes on. I recommend locking the doors, turning off all the lights, and watching both classics in the same evening. I promise you, your brains will rot.
Number 4, Dawn of the Dead's 1978, directed by George A. Romero, and 2004, directed by Zack Snyder.
Sorry, but yes again, I am combining two movies on the list. I don't care what anybody else says. George Romero's Dawn of the Dead is his follow-up to the Night of the Living Dead. This movie is larger in scale and production values. The outbreak is spreading and our heroes are trying to survive in a shopping mall. This is where Tom Savini's notoriety originally exploded due to his success with the realism that he brought to the carnage that was displayed on screen. The Goblin score that is provided is absolute perfection, and I love how the entire experience feels like you're watching an action-adventure horror comic book. It is a true classic with some of the most iconic zombie imagery ever. Zack Snyder's remake, on the other hand, is his directorial debut, and it is what I'd like to call a perfect example of how a remake should be done. He brought something more to the story, changed the characters, but still made you feel like you were completely submerged in a real-world zombie outbreak. Yes, this also takes place in a mall, but all the characters have been changed. This movie probably has some of the most realistic special effects of the undead carnage that you will ever see. Most importantly, he ramped up the intensity by having his zombies run. Now let me just stop right here and explain to you all my beliefs in the fact that in the beginning of an infection, a zombie can run. Let's say me and somebody else are next to each other and all of a sudden they turn into a zombie. If I run, they will give chase, and they will have a couple of advantages over you. First off, they're not going to have to stop to catch their breath. They're not going to feel the pain of their lungs screaming for oxygen. They're also not going to feel the lactic acid building up and breaking down their muscles. Now, after a couple of days, these muscles will break down, and they will eventually become the slow shamblers that we know in the Romero movies. And I'm done. Believe what you want to believe, but science is facts. Now back to the zombie mall movies. Only one movie has zombie kids, and the other one has a zombie baby. One has pies, and the other one does not have pies. Both are drenched in blood and are worthy of your brain cells to rot. Both are truly terrifying tales of the dead. You see what I did there? Oh, the dead.
Number 3, Zombie, aka Zombie 2, Flesh Eaters, 1979, directed by Lucio Fulci.
This right here is an Italian masterpiece set in New York City that's supposed to be a follow-up to Dawn of the Dead. It's cheesy, it's campy, and it delivers in magnificent ways. Fabio Frizzi nails it perfectly with the score and explores many genres of music that were quite unique for its time. The major thing here that sets this movie apart from all the competition is the fact that there's actually a scene in this movie that has a shark versus a zombie. That's right, I can't make that up. I said that. A shark versus a motherfucking zombie. Keep in mind, this was at a time well before CGI, so that just means that's some crazy people doing some very dumb shit. I would like to recommend this movie. I promise you, you will get an eyeful.
Number 2, Return of the Living Dead, 1985, directed by Dan O'Bannon.
This movie makes me want to party. It's party time! The story for this movie takes place in the same cinematic universe as the Romero Dead movies. They claim that in Night of the Living Dead it was real, and that some of the zombies were kept in military biocontainers, and that some of those containers were accidentally lost near a medical supply warehouse that was right next door to an old creepy cemetery where a group of street youths is partying and drinking and dancing naked. Well, kind of. It is a prime example of simple, brilliant cinematic gold. The characters are fun and compelling to watch, and the zombies are of the unkillable variety. In all other zombie movies, simply remove the head or destroy the brain to kill the undead. But in this movie, none of that works. You could chop them up into tiny bits and tiny pieces, and those tiny bits and pieces will just keep coming at you. That is fucking nightmare fuel right there. And the reason I enjoy this movie so much is it's the first time that we get to see running zombies, full on, balls to the walls. If you slip and fall, they're eating your balls, ass running zombie. Not only do they run, but they talk, they use the radios, and they can do impersonations. A deadly combo. And when you're done laughing and screaming to this movie, I recommend listening to the Trioxin theme song from the opening credits. That shit is my jam.
Honorable mentions.
Here's just a couple of movies that did not make the list, but are still worthy of rotting your brain cells.
Paranorman, Scooby-Doo and Zombie Island, Planet Terror, Train to Busan, Night of the Comets, Reanimator, Night of the Creeps, Resident Evil, My Boyfriend's Back, Wormwood, Anna and the Apocalypse, Little Monsters, Cooties, Warm Bodies, One of the Dead Don't Die, The Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse, Dead Snow, White Zombie, City of the Living Dead, and the always popular Land of the Dead.
Thank you, John Leguizamo.
Number 1. Shaun of the Dead, 2004, directed by Edgar Wright.
If you have not seen this amazing rom-com, stop what you're doing right now and go watch it. It's sweet, it's funny, it's endearing, and it's absolutely brutal by the time the third act comes around. The creators of this masterpiece, Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright, are true fans of the genre, and it shows in every scene and with every reference they make. The story is a classic hero tale. Shaun must win back his girlfriend, get flowers to his mom, and try to save his friends, all while the zombie apocalypse is taking place on the streets of London. This is the perfect zombie date night movie if there ever was such a thing. And if romance is not what you were looking for, then this story has plenty of friendship. What Shaun is willing to do for his best mate Ed is truly inspiring. I want the best friend pet zombie to play video games with in a shed so bad it hurts. Sink your teeth into this slice of fried gold. There's plenty of meat in that pie.
You got red on you.
The top 10 zombie movies to rot your brains.
And that concludes my list of the top 10 zombie movies that I believe will rot your brains. I definitely feel like there's a lot of other movies that were left off this list, but that just means we'll be able to do another list in the near future. Maybe that list would be like the worst zombie movies to rot your brains. Sounds awful. Let me know if your favorite zombie movie did or didn't make it on the list, and I will discuss it with any of you out there.
Be sure to like and subscribe to join us for more undead updates and explorations.
This has been Dr. Redfield reminding all of you to play and slay. Play until dead. Quick question. If I make love to a zombie, is that considered necrophilia?